so that it doesn't disturb the recording that we're making for today's meeting. Do we need to check to make sure I'm heard? Are we good? Okay, good, thank you. What I want to do is first, review and approve the remote attendance forms we have from 3 of our board members. First is from Willie Cochran. His principal residence is more than 65 miles from the board's location. He's not able to make it to the meeting today. And so we'd like to hear a motion for approval of his attendance for that, and participation for that reason. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. The next is Bruce Prather. Bruce actually can't attend the same reason. Member's principal resident, he's more than 60 miles from the meeting location, is unable to attend today's meeting. So do I have a motion for approval of his participation for the meeting?
So moved.
Fine, thank you. Do we have a second? Second, thank you. And, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed, same sign, or say no. Thank you. And the third is Donald Ratliff. Donald, family member's medical condition that requires a member to provide care for such family member, thereby preventing the member's physical attendance. I think Donnie's in attendance online. So, do I hear a motion that will allow him to participate in today's meeting?
So moved.
Fine, thank you.
And second.
Second, thank you. Again, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed, say no. Fine, thank you. We do have those participating online. With that said, I'd like for members who are here, physically here, to introduce themselves, starting with Ms. Gibson.
Mary Dixon.
Patrick Owens.
Gus Jansen.
And I'm Bill Harris, a public member. I'll be chairing today's meeting. I believe that's it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started then. Normally at this time, the board receives public comments, and I have the list. There's no one who signed on. Is there anyone who plans to speak that did not? Okay, I don't think we do, so we'll just pass that. Move on to the first item. It's item number 3, a petition from Key Rock Energy LLC for the creation of a sealed dock unit and coolant unit slope drain vent pipe. Docket number is BGOB 24-0416-4281. This item was continued from June 2024. Would ask all persons who plan to speak to this item, please come forward.
Yes, sir, Mr. Harris, Freddie Mullins for Key Rock Energy. I have with me, Morgan Pate and Aaron Davis to testify on behalf of Key Rock.
Would you have those folks,
Mr. Davis, do you swear and affirm that your testimony is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Pate, do you swear that your testimony is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
you proceed?
Mr. Harris, as you may recall, in the last meeting, that this was considered, there were some questions about the AFE. I'll be glad to go through the entire petition again, but I didn't know if the board wanted me to just go over the AFE, which was where all the questioning came from.
Board members, what's your pleasure with that?
Yeah, I guess the 2 board members that weren't part of this earlier, maybe they would like to hear the whole thing again or.
Yeah.
I'm indifferent. I was present online during the new meeting, so I'm indifferent, but.
Well, it was just continued, am I correct? At the
Yeah.
new meeting.
Yes.
I'm okay if they don't do it.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so if you would then, consensus seems to be that you can address the AFE.
All right, Mr. Pate, could you state your name, please, for the board?
Morgan Pate.
And are you familiar with the cost for the slope drain vent pipe?
Yes, sir.
And does that approximate cost $57,465.60?
Yes.
And can you tell the board some of the costs that is covered by those invoices?
Yeah, so when we worked on this project initially, all that was available to us was a PVC pipe. that extended out of the ground and went down into the roof of the mine slope. So in essence, the hole was already drilled, even though it's not what you would consider a conventional hole. The work entailed turning the PVC pipe into a proper wellhead that could be closed in. From there, we ran a pipe off the hillside. We put another shut-off valve, and drip, up the hill, ran the pipe all the way downhill and underneath the road, put another drip on it, turned the pipe, and all this pipe was fused PVC. Turned the pipe into an instrument trailer that measures methane, content, flow rate, barometric pressure, that sort of thing. Then to the flare, the site itself is 60 feet by 30 feet, so we had to level that area a little more, gravel it. Some of the cost involved bringing the equipment in, and then there was a fence put in that surrounds it. And that was effectively all of it.
And Mr. Pate, have invoices from Key Rock's contractors, have those also been submitted with this application?
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, those should be in with the
Yeah, I was
application.
gonna answer about those. I noticed those. We're there, yeah. Anything further on that?
Not as far as the AFE, the evidence would be the same as was presented during our last hearing on this matter.
Board members, any questions?
Yeah, just, I think one of the questions I'd asked before on the exhibit N, you've got the royalty,
Page number?
PDF page number 109. Exhibit N, which has the proceeds and the royalties produced. Do you have an estimated production value associated with each of those years, the production, historic production?
You mean in terms of MCF produced?
Correct.
We do have that, definitely. I don't have it off the top of my head. Might be able to back calculate it from these numbers. The credit prices varied from 2021 to 2023, but I think typically they ran in the $14 to $16 range. And this percentage is 12.5% royalty to Internets. So you could back calculate it that way, but I could easily get you an exact number.
Yeah, at some point in time, you have to produce those numbers.
Yes.
For the division anyway, so I just thought you may have those numbers readily available with that, so. We'll get those at a later date with that. The second part, sort of related to this, on your election options, under item 9. Actual order. On page 120 on your PDF. The option 2 talks about a shut-in payment that, in this case, I believe this follows the same lines that you've been doing in the past. Shut-in payment is not calculated on percentage acreage inside the but a payment of $1,000 per lessor. I think on the next application you're doing on Key Rock number 8, you're changing that to an acreage instead of that. There's a reason why you didn't change this one. I think in the past ones,
Because it was already submitted, I believe, and we didn't have the foresight to anticipate what if we shut this well in with 50 different owners.
right, that's what I'm saying, it's a pretty punitive
It is very
penalty
much.
if you shut the well in. And along those lines, you sort of define what you would consider the well being shut in, how many days would have to be offline or shut in is one of those terms that's not really defined real well in the regulation or the.
I believe in the lease, it's a full year. Usually when these types of projects go down, they go down permanently. If you know, a mine flood that hits the borehole, you could only pull so much vacuum at the surface because then you'll start pulling fresh air in and kill the project anyway. If you try to pull too hard. So these projects definitely have a lifetime. So we usually set them at a year. Yeah, we have seen projects go down for a year and come back, but never in sort of economic fashion. So I think internally, if we see one of our wells go down for 6 months, we look at it in terms of it's probably time to plug your well.
Right. So it says in here, it says the study and royalty on the first day of the month or the initial cessation of production. I don't know, is that after that year's gone by, that's, you would consider that one?
My understanding from the internet leases, yeah, after,
Well, that's the different, this is what we're offering anybody who wants to participate in this well going forward. So they understand what their options are. So that's what I was trying to make sure it was clear that if the well shut down today, on August the 20th, they would get $1,000 payment on August 1st. That's
We would
according to
honor-
this.
we would honor that.
That's the way this reads to me.
I think in
Make
that
sure that's what
scenario,
you're
we
saying.
would, probably like to plug the well very quickly.
That's an incentive. to get the flag. Okay, I just want to make sure that was clarified and how you're doing that on past wells and the one going forward. So,
I think internally, we didn't know how much leeway we had to differ from, the pooling order off of the original internet lease. If you just have one royalty
Yeah.
owner, that's not a
the
problem.
leasing options are your business. You can offer whatever leases you want to people at the end of the day. You just have to make something that is fair and equitable to the other people that aren't going to be leased. So I said what those people do in the past. So, okay, that's all the question for that.
Any other questions from, board members online or in the meeting? Mr. Page? Ms. Mellon? Thank you. You may continue.
That would be our evidence in regards to the creation of the steel God unit and then request approval.
Okay, any further questions on the item? Any motions?
Motion to approve.
A second.
We'd ask the, I guess, Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board since we have some online and here?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Abstain.
and Mr. Prather. And Mr. Cochran.
Yes.
Thank you. We do have approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We'll move on to the next item. Number 4, I believe, a petition from Key Rock Energy LLC for a well location exception pursuant to Virginia Code number 45.2-1616 or 1616. Unit slope drain vent pipe docket number BGOB 24-0416-4281-01. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this, please come forward.
Mr. Chair, Freddie Mullins on behalf of Key Rock Energy LLC, and I'll be calling this my witnesses, Morgan Page.
Okay, and they have already been sworn in and let the record show there are no others. You may go.
Mr. Pate, can you please state your name for the board, please?
Morgan Pate,
And how are you employed?
geologist for Key Rock Energy.
And to the best of your knowledge, is Key Rock Energy authorized to conduct business in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yes,
And they have filed a bond with this department to conduct business, is that correct?
yes,
And you're familiar with this application for a well location exception, is that correct?
yes,
And the petition involves a well location exception for to coal bed methane well. And is the unit located in the North Coalfield gas or coal bed gas field?
yes.
And do you know how many acres it contains?
Approximately 300.
And can you explain to the board a little bit what Key Rock plans to do if this application is granted?
We will pull gas from the seal section of Beat Mine 26 and meter it, measure it, and flare it for carbon credits or emission offset.
And can you explain to the board what type of carbon credits they are?
Your abandoned mine methane carbon credits through the California ARB
And you sell those, you market those credits on this California market,
on the open market.
on the open market. And what seam of coal is this coal bed methane produced from?
The lower banner.
And in this particular unit, portions of this unit are owned by Intervest, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And if you obtained a lease for all the gas in the unit that is controlled by Intervest?
Yes,
And how was Intervest informed of this proceeding?
certified mail, return receipt requested.
And has that notice been filed with this board?
Yes,
And what about the other owners?
they were also notified.
And can you tell the board how they were notified?
The same way, certified mail.
And was there also notice by order of publication in the Dickinson Star?
Yes,
And can you tell the board what percentage of the unit Key Rock currently has under lease through its dealings with Intervest?
57.57%.
And so that would leave 42.43% not under lease.
Correct.
And you know how much percentage of that 42.43% are unknown owners?
4.31%.
And all of these owners, they were all, they were unknown, they were served by the order of publication in the Dickinson Star.
Yes,
And can you tell the board, the proposed depth for this particular well?
approximately 50 feet,
And what about the estimated reserves?
815 MMCF.
And you're familiar with the projected cost of this project?
Yes, sir.
And did you participate in the preparation of the AFE and the associated invoices that's been filed with this board?
Yes,
And can you tell the estimated cost?
approximately 57,000.
And the well site that you would like to use, is it 146.43 feet from Key Rock Energy well number M26-1?
Yes,
And is Key Rock asking the board to enter an order to enable what we call the slope drain vent pipe to be drilled as depicted on Exhibit K in the application?
yes,
And is the proposed well location necessary to effectively and efficiently drain a portion of the common sources of supply for the unit?
yes,
And in your opinion, it cannot be adequately and efficiently drained without this exception?
yes.
That would be great.
Question from board members? Okay, you may continue.
That would be all our residents in regards to the well location exception.
I do have a question. This is kind of a side question. I heard when you were talking about open markets and California markets, what's the difference there?
I don't, so California, basically, this carbon credit program is run by them. There've been other climate exchange programs, in the past. Chicago did one, Quebec did one. And basically, these programs create ways to make sure operators like Key Rock are truly flaring the gas that we say they are. It's coming from the source that we say. So they create the program, they initiate the credits, they create the credits on their end, assign them to us. We just simply sell the credits on the open market, but that doesn't mean the buyers in California. I'm not sure we've ever had a buyer in
Yeah,
California.
because I heard you all say too, I know you corrected him saying open market, and I thought, well, there are two different markets, and that probably doesn't. And like I said, it's kind of unrelated to what we're saying, but I thought, well, did we miss something in that? Because I'm still, I guess most of us are still kind of in the cloud about, not literally, but in the cloud figuratively, I guess, about how this is all done.
I've been doing it for 10 years and I feel the same.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you. Do we have a motion or any, well, let me get a motion and we'll see if there are any further questions. We have a motion for this item. Or any further questions, I should ask.
Yeah, so I just make sure I'm clear here. So you got this, look at the plat on page, PDF page 43. It's a slope bit pipe in the existing Key Rock 1026-1. So there's two different well bores. Correct. At the time.
Yeah, the slope bent pipe hits the top of the mine slope and then extends down.
Into the unit.
north. And so, yes, and the M26-1, even though they're closed,
That's another unit.
that's another sealed area.
Right, but that's not clear. So
And we permitted that way because we own the surface right there. And it would, you could combine the two into one site, basically on the ground instead of creating a second.
Any other questions, The board operates on a motion.
Motion to approve.
I'll say.
Okay, fine. Any further discussion? Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board, please?
Mrs. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yeah, abstain. I'm sorry, abstain.
Mr. Prather, Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
All right, thank you. That's been approved. We'll move on to item number 5. It's a petition from Key Rock Energy LLC for the creation of a GOB unit. I'm sorry, a sealed GOB unit. Back that up, of a sealed GOB drilling unit in pool. Unit is Key Rock number 8. Docket number is BGOB 24-0820-4289. We ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, Freddie Mullins, on behalf of Key Rock Energy LLC, and for my witnesses today would be Morgan Pate.
Okay, and I think those both have been sworn in, and I don't see any others, so we'll let you go ahead.
All right, Mr. Pate, can you please state your name for the board, please?
Morgan Pate,
And how are you employed?
geologist at Key Rock Energy.
All right, and to the best of your knowledge, is Key Rock Energy LLC authorized to conduct business in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yes.
And they filed the appropriate bonds with this department to be able to conduct business.
Yes, sir.
And you're familiar with this application for what we're calling Key Rock number 8,
Yes.
and this is for a coal bed methane well, is that correct?
Yes.
And is it located in the north coal bed gas field?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the board how many acres approximately this unit would consist of?
520 acres.
And can you tell the board what Key Rock plans to do if this application is granted?
We will drill into a seal section of Deep Mine 41, for active mine gas and bring it to the surface and clear it for the generation of credits.
And what seam of coal is this coal bed methane produced from?
The job obviously.
And has Key Rock Energy obtained leases for a portion of this unit?
Yes.
And are those leases with Intervest?
Yes.
And how was Intervest informed of this proceeding?
Certified belt.
And has the notice with that documentation been filed with this board?
Yes.
And you know the percentage of the unit that Key Rock currently has under lease?
99.53%.
And so the percentage of the unit that Key Rock does not have under lease is how much?
0.47%.
And all of those owners are known, is that correct?
Yes.
And how were those unleased owners informed of this proceeding?
Certified mail?
And was there also notice of the hearing ran under Dickinson Star?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, are there any unknown owners?
No.
And so you're seeking to pool 100% of this unit today?
Yes, sir.
And are you requesting that the board pool the interests of all the parties listed on Exhibit B in the application?
Yes.
Now, are you also requesting the board establish a procedure where all parties listed on Exhibit B3 shall have the right to choose one of the 3 options that are listed in the application?
Yes.
As far as the lease terms, would they be offered the same royalty terms as has been offered to Intervest?
Yes, sir.
And what is the proposed depth of this well?
1,135 feet.
And do you have any estimates as to the reserves?
Approximately 1,000 MMCF.
And you're familiar with the projected well costs of this proposed well?
Yes, sir.
And did you participate in the preparation of an AFE file with this application?
Yes.
And can you tell the board what the estimated dry hole cost is?
Approximately $235,000.
And are you asking the board to create a sealed GOB drilling unit to further pool that unit?
Yes.
And we're not asking for escrow with this particular application, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, are you asking the board to name Key Rock Energy as the operator for this unit?
Yes.
And in your opinion, if the board grants this application, would it prevent waste, promote conservation, and protect correlated rights?
Yes, it would.
That would be all the questions I have for Mr. Pate.
Any questions from board members? Well, let me ask one about location. I noticed that it's I presume that was. Were there other locations? Was that the only location that, I'm looking at, I guess, the plat?
There could have been other locations. We looked at, so when we choose a spot in these sealed areas, we look at the most up-dip portions of the sealed areas. And then we try to find places that are on CF highways, a large local landowner in the area. We've done a lot of work with them in the past, and so that seems to go well. And then we try to use Intervest existing access roads. So combine those three, that's the location that ended up. There could have been a few others, but for whatever reason, we picked that one.
Just looking at the location, how close to the edge it was, but I guess it is a little. Yeah. Okay. Other questions?
Just one other question. There's several existing CBM wells that penetrate this proposed unit. Are any of those wells producing, which y'all want to see also?
Not to my knowledge.
Any others? Okay, Mr. Mullins, do you have anything else?
No, sir, nothing further on that application.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Poll the board, please.
Yes, sir. Mrs. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Abstain.
Mr. Prather, and Mr. Cochran.
Yes.
Motion passed and that item is going to,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
we move on now to item number 6, I believe it is. A petition from Key Rock Energy LLC for well location exception pursuant to Virginia Code 45.2-1616. Unit Key Rock number 8, docket number VGOB 24-0820-4290. Again, so all parties who wish to speak to this, please come forward.
Freddie Mullins on behalf of Key Rock Energy, Mr. Chair, and as my witnesses, I'll have, Mr. Morgan Taylor and David.
And as those witnesses are already sworn in, and no one else is here to speak to that, we'll let you go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Pate, can you please state your name? For the record?
Morgan, thank
And how are you employed, Mr. Pate?
you all just for Key Rock Energy.
And to the best of your knowledge, is Key Rock Energy authorized to conduct business in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yes,
And have they filed the appropriate bonds with this department to be able to conduct business in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
yes,
And you're familiar with this application for a well location exception for Key Rock number 8?
yes, sir.
And this concerns a coal bed methane well, is that correct?
Yes,
And is this unit located, or is this well located in the Nora coal bed gas field?
yes.
And in the unit, that's been proposed, how many acres does it contain?
Approximately 520.
And Mr. Pate, can you explain, to the board what Key Rock plans to do if this well location exception is granted?
We will drill a well into the jawbone seam for active mine gas and then flare it at the surface for generation of carbon credits.
And then those would be sold.
Yes, sir.
All right. And have you obtained leases for a portion of this unit?
Yes,
And are those leases with Intervest?
yes, sir.
And Intervest has been informed, of this proceeding for the well location exception.
Yes,
And how was notice provided?
certified now.
And has documentation, of that notice been filed with this board?
Yes,
And what percentage of the unit to its leases with Intervest does Key Rock have under lease?
99.5%.
And what percentage of the unit does Key Rock not have in lease?
0.47%.
And these are all, known but unleased owners?
Correct.
And how were they provided notice?
Certified now.
And was there also notice of this hearing ran in the Dickinson Star?
Yes,
And, you're asking, the board, proposed well location is it 847 feet from Intervest operating well number BC 704253?
Yes.
And is the proposed well for Key Rock number 8 448 feet from the Intervest operating LLC well number BC 702599?
Yes.
And are you asking this board to enter an order to enable Key Rock to drill what we're calling Key Rock number 8 as shown on the exhibit K of the application?
Yes, sir.
And is this exception to the well location necessary to effectively and efficiently drain a portion of the common sources of supply underlying the unit as described in Exhibit A?
Yes.
And in your opinion, can it be adequately and efficiently drained without this exception? Can this resource be adequately and efficiently drained without this exception being granted?
No.
And in your opinion, if the board grants the application today, would it prevent waste, promote conservation, and protect correlated rights?
Yes.
That would be our evidence.
Questions from members of the board? Okay, you may continue.
That would be our evidence regarding the well location exception, Mr. Chair.
Anything further from the board before we entertain a motion? I guess we'll entertain a motion. This item.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
And then Ms. Gilman, would you call the board, please?
Mrs. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Abstain.
Mr. Prather, and Mr. Cochran.
Yes.
We have that motion approved and that item has been.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I do have a question for the board. First of all, we appreciate the board's patience with us concerning the slope drainage and pipeline. There was a lot of things that we needed to work through on that. The question that I had is that we have included in these two applications some mapping showing the other wells that have been drilled by Key Rock. I know that it had been requested previously, and I want to make sure that it's the board's satisfaction, or if we need to consider doing it a different way on any further application.
Not sure if I'm the one that answered that.
Yeah, I think it looked fine.
Yeah.
So what I'd requested.
Okay. We've got, there should be, the ones that, Mr. Field prepared for should have a different, should show the different units. Now, they were in color, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody could see them,
Yes.
on what we submitted. Okay,
Thank you very much for that.
we appreciate, the board considering our employees.
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Mullins, Ms. Pate, Mr. Davis. Thank you for attending and participating.
Thank you.
Do we need to take a break for a couple of minutes to change over? Okay, folks, the next item is number 7. It is a petition from Pocahontas Gas LLC for the creation of a sealed GOG drilling unit and pool. Unit is BUC 1 SGU 7. Docket number is BGOB 24-820-4288. Yes, all parties who wish to speak to this item, please come forward.
Mark Swartz and Kelly Berry.
Miss Barry, do you swear
Yes.
and affirm that your testimony is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, the record will show there are no others, so you may proceed.
Thank you. Kelly, could you state your name for us again, please?
Kelly Berry,
And who you work for?
Pocahontas Gas LLC.
And what was your involvement in the application and notice and exhibits that we're dealing with here concerning Buchanan number 1 sealed GOB unit 7?
I prepared and submitted all of the documentation.
Okay. And who's the applicant here?
Pocahontas Gas LLC.
And is Pocahontas Gas LLC authorized to do business in the Commonwealth?
Yes,
Does it have has it registered with the DMME and the department?
yes,
Does it have a blanket bond on file?
yes.
This application today, what did you do to advise people who have an interest in the COVID methane and the acreage that's at issue here? What did you do to tell them that we were going to have a hearing today?
We mailed a copy of the application by certified mail with return receipt requested. And we also published notice in the Bluefield Daily Telegraph.
And have you provided certificates with regard to mailing to the division and or to the department and the Virginia Gas and Oil Board?
Yes,
And when you published, that was when did that happen?
July 26th, 2024.
And this unit that we're seeking to create today, we need to talk just a moment. I think the board, if they've looked at the applications, probably understands that this application, item number 7, is related to item number 8, which follows. Basically, what we have here is we had created a vent shaft unit a couple of years ago, and we are now sealing a piece of that vent shaft unit to create a new unit, which is the proposed unit, Buchanan number 1, Seal Gob 7. And we're proposing to extract that acreage from the vent shaft unit. And that's what this application is about. And then the next one we're going to be talking about is to reallocate the percentages in the remaining folks and acreage in the vent shaft unit, correct?
Yes,
Okay. What we have done here, what we are seeking to do here is simply to create the Seal Gob drilling unit, correct?
that's correct.
And why aren't we pooling again?
All of these interests have previously been pooled under the vent shaft unit.
Okay, and the vent shaft unit number is identified in here, I think. Let's go down. Yeah, if we go to page 2 of the PDF, page 2, we provide the information with regard to the vent shaft unit at the first paragraph there. What's the name of the vent shaft unit?
That is vent shaft 16.
Okay, and the docket number associated with the order creating that unit and pooling everybody in that unit is what?
21-0420-4237.
And just to remind everyone, the field rules that the board has previously promulgated with regard to the Oakwood field do not cover Seal Gob gas, correct?
That's correct.
And what information have you provided, if any, with regard to prior orders affecting portions of this unit?
We provided an exhibit listing all of the previous pooling orders regarding the individual units contained within this Seal Gob area.
And that's Exhibit L.
That is, the numbers have changed the last couple of times. So let me just double check and make sure.
Yeah, I think it's actually Exhibit I. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
find the reference.
Exhibit.
Yeah,
Exhibit
it'd be-
L is the listing of the prior docket numbers.
Okay, but if you go to page 132, okay, of this PDF, page 132, just want to make sure that,
Yes, Exhibit I.
okay. So the reference in the application to L is just a typo or a mistake, right?
Yeah, it was previously submitted as Exhibit L, and that changed to Exhibit I.
Oh, okay, okay. But in this instance, it's page exhibit It's exhibit I. Okay, going back then to the application. Um, the, to the extent that we are using a different kind of production here, which is sealed gob production as opposed to destroying the methane fraction, the vent gas. This order, even though we're not repooling people, it should give the folks that we don't have under lease or contract a participation option, correct?
That's correct.
And we will address that later as we go through the exhibits. So essentially what we're seeking here in terms of an order is to create this sealed gob unit, to give the members, the unleased owners in this unit an opportunity to participate in the sealed gob production. Obviously, they had an opportunity to participate before in the vent shaft production. And is this creation of this unit going to, in effect, protect correlative rights, prevent waste, and ensure that they're in the production here?
Yes.
And is this the creation of this unit and the issue?
I'm sorry, you froze up on us for just a moment.
Oh,
Can you repeat that?
Okay, sure. Is this this proposed extraction of sealed gob gas a reasonable way to produce the remaining coal bed methane in the unit that we're seeking to create?
Yes.
And if you come down to the application to paragraph 4, which is also on page number 2, how many acres are in this proposed unit?
1,477.88 acres.
Okay, and then if we continue on to the page, well, actually, let's go to the notice and the people that you've listed there. Do you want to add any people as respondents today?
No.
Do you want to dismiss any folks as respondents today?
No.
Come down to page, PDF page, to a smaller area here. Number 9, what is that?
This is a plat of the sealed area reflecting the individual mineral tracts along with their identification numbers, which correlate with the tract identification.
Okay, and the blue boundary is the boundary of the unit we're seeking to create, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then what do you show on the next page, page number 10?
This is a plat just reflecting the location of the boundary overlying the field.
And instead of identifying the tracks, it identifies the Oakwood units.
Yes.
And this kind of pertains to exhibit I, which lists the orders that might pertain to the collection of these units, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then the next page, which is page number 11, what is that?
This is a plat of the sealed area with the blue boundary overlying the existing mine works.
So you can see what portions of the entries, for example, on either side of the sealed gob area that we're proposing to create are still going to remain open. It shows the extent of mining within the sealed gob area. And is the boundary essentially following the mine seals?
Yes.
Okay. And then if we come to the next page, this is simply a requirement of the board rules and the statute that we give an actual meets and bounds description of the boundary, correct?
That's correct.
And that's what page 12 is. All right,
Yeah.
then if we come down to, just get the page number here. If we come down to PDF page 20, that is page 20 is the beginning of an exhibit. An exhibit which lists all of the owners and claimants in the proposed sealed gob unit, correct?
That's correct.
And the reason we're listing the owners that we have leases from here is because the size of this unit may not be authorized in the leases, and we need to give them an opportunity to appear and object if they have an objection.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so Exhibit B is everybody. Then if we go to Exhibit B3, which is at page, I think it's 96, 90 or 96, let me look here. Okay, what's Exhibit B3?
Exhibit B3 reflects all of the unleased claimants within the unit.
So those would be the people that were previously force pooled when we created the vent shaft unit,
Yes,
who are now going to be in the sealed gob unit.
yes.
Okay, we go to the last page of B3. We've got kind of a recap there at page 94. And what's the unleased percentages in acreage here?
It is 6.2022 acres, which is 0.4197% of the unit.
To the extent that actually we're not pooling them, so I don't need to go there. All right, let me look at PDF page 96. There is an escrow requirement, correct?
Yes, there is a tract which the current owners or trustees of the cemetery are unknown.
It's just that one tract that's an unknown issue or an escrow
Yes,
issue.
yes,
Okay, and the title of this exhibit is E.
yes.
What is the next page, 97? What does that show?
This is a plat that shows the boundary of the sealed area in blue, the existing mine works, as well as the existing wells within that boundary.
Within the various panels.
Yes,
The next page is Exhibit D. And what's that?
this reflects all of the leased owners, which will be voluntarily pooled.
That we're noticing because of the size of the unit.
That's correct.
Down to page 132 again. This is what?
Page 132 is the Exhibit I, reflecting all of the prior dockets associated with the individual Oakwood units contained within this sealed area.
Then the next page is what?
This is the estimate of allowable costs, which reflects each of the panels that are located within this proposed sealed area, the average gob well cost for each panel, and also reflects the number of seals and the cost of sealing the panels as provided to us by Coronado.
Okay. And how did you calculate the average cost per well? What data did you use?
We utilize the actual final well costs for each gob well within each panel, totaled up all of those gob well actual costs on a panel by panel basis, and then divided your total for each panel by the number of gob wells drilled within that panel. And we allow costs for 3 gob wells per panel, because obviously we would not want to pass along the cost of every gob well within a panel to a participant.
Then the next page is simply locates the proposed unit in Buchanan County on a larger map.
Yes.
And then, actually, this is we're an exhibit here, PDF page. Let me see what this page is. Guess it must be 135. There's a map, right?
Yes.
And this
Yes,
actually, okay, this shows the original vent shaft unit, right?
Correct. That is the blue boundary.
And then the sort of, I'm not sure what to call that color. It's kind of
I will call it pink.
okay. And the pink is the sealed gob unit that we're proposing to create, correct?
That's correct.
And it shows on to the east and west of the proposed unit portions of the original vent shaft unit that are still going to be in the mix for royalty payments regarding vent shaft 16 production.
That's correct.
Next, then the last thing is the proposed order.
Yes.
My notes here. To the extent that people who are being forced pooled do not elect to participate, what are the royalty terms that we would propose?
Our standard royalty terms are $5 per acre per year with a 5-year paid up lease and a 1/8 royalty interest.
Mr. Harris, I think that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Questions from board members?
Question
I do
concerning
want to
the,
note,
Sorry.
go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah,
sure, I do want to note that I do need to submit an updated Exhibit B prior to the order being approved to update addresses for owners who have sent in updated addresses with their mailing activity.
okay, that will be noted.
Thank you.
Back to the map on page 135, which shows the vent shaft 16 unit and the proposed unit for this application. There are a couple other colors on that map, the heavier red and the dashed sort of orangey color across here. Do those colors represent anything? They're not in the legend, but I just wondered if they.
No,
No, not today.
All right, good. Thank you. You have a good day.
Thank you.
okay. The red, they're just different layers on our mapping for proposed future mining. And then some of the red boundaries represent retained acres, which are represented in the following docket on that, tract identification. Property boundaries.
The orange dash line, does that have any representation of anything? Is that a pipeline or something else? Another layer?
I believe it's a road.
Road, but just, okay. Just wasn't sure if they had any meaning to the map since they weren't.
No. Not particularly.
Okay, one last question, the map that had all the existing wells, several of those wells have been plugged, all those wells will be producing from this sealed gob unit, correct?
That is
Over
correct.
time. Do we normally list those somewhere or just show them on the map? Do we usually have a listing of the wells or somewhere in the application? Does it matter? Matter to you guys at the moment?
The wells are in the process of submitting my docket request. I'm required to identify all of the wells within the unit. So I know it's within the system. I know it's within the e-form system with the state.
Okay.
But I also have a listing of the wells that I could provide as well.
Yeah, it seems like I've seen them in the past, there's been listings with all the wells, but maybe not.
Sure.
Just remembered. Okay, that's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Any further questions from board members? Any further discussion?
Well, this is Mark Swartz. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if there may have been, and I may have misunderstood what was going on, but I'm not sure in answer to a recent question that it's accurate to say that all of the wells shown on page 97 will actually be producing. I think they're potentially going to be producing, but I'm sure that Kelly, when she files her information with the division, will identify the wells. But I don't think, Kelly, you need to revisit that issue. Is it accurate? They're all going to be producing?
The wells that are not plugged and are not drilled in a remaining solid block of coal will be producing to this unit. There are several wells within this boundary. As you can see on the areas that are not mined out, there's a L39D, L41, L42A, and J38A that will continue to produce as individual frac wells because they are drilled in solid blocks of coal that remain within this area.
Okay, I just wanted to square that away a little bit, that there's that not every well shown on here is producing for several reasons. One, some of them shown on here are shown as plugged, and some of them are in solid blocks of coal. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else? Anything further, Mr. Swartz?
No,
Board operates on a motion.
Motion to approve.
No, second.
Okay, fine. Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board, please?
Mrs. Gibson.
Yes.
Mr. Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Jansen.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff.
Yes.
Mr. Prather. And Mr. Cochran.
Yes.
Here's that motion approved and that item has been approved, so. We move on to the next item. It's number 8. It's a petition from Pocahontas Gas LLC for modification of the VS16 unit to remove acreage being pooled under Seal Gob area. I guess that's Buchanan 1, SGU 7, Seal Gob Unit 7, docket number VGOB 21-0420-4237-01. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Mark Swartz and Kelly Berry.
Okay, I think there are no others, so you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, could we incorporate by reference Kelly's prior testimony with regard to the item number 7, with regard to her employment and with regard to Pocahontas' ability to do business in the Commonwealth and so forth?
Yes, that will be incorporated.
Thank you. Kelly, you need to state your name for us again.
Kelly Berry.
Okay, and this is the second petition that we need to deal with regarding the impact of the creation of a sealed gob unit, correct?
That's correct.
And in a few words, what are we trying to do with this modification?
With this modification, we are asking to update the owners who are to be paid within the vent shaft unit by extracting the acreage that is within the steel gob area previously created.
And so when we extract that acreage, we've got some division of interest issues that we need to address as well, correct?
That's correct.
And so we are, in addition to, changing the acreage within the vent shaft unit, we are asking at page number 2, relief sought for B to reestablish or recalculate the division of interest for the production revenue and costs with regard to the folks who have acreage remaining in the unit.
Yes.
Okay. At PDF page 3, what are we showing there?
This is the new depiction of the unit once the steel gob unit 7 acres are extracted with our updated tract numbers on our tract identifications.
Okay, basically it's showing everything that isn't within the pink is remaining within the vent shaft unit, correct?
Yes.
And how many acres remain in the vent shaft unit?
2,115.38 acres.
Okay. We go to PDF page 15. At 15, what do we have?
This is the updated Exhibit B.
So this lists everybody who remains in the unit, which is a shorter list than we had before, right?
Yes, and it updates the acres once their allocated percentage to the unit once the steel gob unit 7 acres are extracted.
And that's what's going to drive their division of interest going forward now.
Yes.
Go to see here. Page 96 of the PDF. What we got there?
This is the Exhibit B2, which lists all of the tracks that are completely being removed from this unit and are fully encompassed within the steel gob unit 7.
That we just sought to create.
Yes.
Okay. And if we go to PDF page 117, what do we have here?
This is the revised Exhibit B3 listing all of the unleased tracks within the unit.
Okay, that were previously pooled with regard to vent shaft 16.
Yes.
Okay, and then at PDF page 129, we have kind of a recap of out of the 2,000 plus acreage, how many acres remain unleased and the percentage that represents.
That is 148.9360 acres, which is 7.0406% of the unit.
We've seen this map before, but at page 130, we have another map of the unit that we looked at in the prior docket item, which shows this seal gob within the pink, and then the balance of the 2,115.38 acre unit, vent shaft unit 16 that remains.
Yes.
Okay. And the last thing, we have a fairly short proposed order because really all we're doing is extracting the acreage and reconstituting the division of interest. And basically, that's what that order does.
That's correct.
Mr. Harris, that's all I have.
Thank you. Questions from board members? Well, hearing none. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for the same.
Motion to approve.
One second.
Okay, any further discussion? Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board, please?
Mrs. Gibson,
Yes.
Mr. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Ratliff,
Yes.
Mr. Prather, and Mr. Cochran.
Yes.
Okay, that item has been approved, Mr. Schwartz, that item has been approved.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, good seeing you. Okay, the board will receive an update from the board and division. Update of the board and division, activities from the state.
All right. One thing that I asked Sarah to do, we put together some charts, and I'll probably get to just go over a breakdown of how the escrow accounts are kind of where the money is, and the number of accounts remaining and where those lie. So we'll look at the first chart. It's the funds remaining in the escrow account. The type, this is the end of July. That's the one that has the, I'll call them depth, everybody's on the same one with three. For the three major categories of either cloud on title, unknown, unlocatable, and unprocessed cold dismissals. So we've got a little over 3 million in the unprocessed coal and $500,000, a little over $500,000 in the unknown, unlocatable, and a little 1.3 million roughly on cloud on title. So that tracks out, if you total that up, that's $4,984,882, which pretty much tracks along with what we have escrow bank for last statement. Well, that just helps us kind of understand exactly where that money, is fooded up right now. The next one, if you'll look at this, is this one is talking about the number of accounts. And looking at this one, you can see that Pocahontas Gas and the coal dismissal has 243 accounts that have not been settled yet. They're remaining, and they also have in the unknown 118. So if you total those up, they're looking at 361 total for those two categories. And then you go on to Intervest, they've got 20 between the two. Diversified's got 4, and then others, which is a mixture, there's 5 accounts out there. So we've got 390 accounts out there that have not been resolved yet. And then if you want to look at the distribution on the funds, you can see again with Pocahontas Gas having the majority of the accounts that have not been settled yet. If you add the two together, the coal dismissals and unknown, you're looking at 3.3 million. Intervest with their 20, you're looking about 145,000. Diversified with the 4 accounts, you're looking about $35,000 there, and then the other one is kind of divided. Those that are left, about 35,000 on the other accounts. So we got about 3.6 million just laying in those accounts. Thought that might be good just to see kind of a breakdown.
Yeah.
Just late with the list that you sent us, these charts.
Mhm.
I'd like to ask a question.
Mhm.
I'm not very familiar with how this is distributed and how the people are notified. There seems to be a lot of money that hasn't been distributed. People haven't claimed. What process do we go through to identify those people?
Kelly, are you still on the line?
I am.
Would you mind to go over that with Mrs. Gibson? I know you sort of prepared to speak about this.
Sure. So, we have identified on our, for each unit, the owners of the gas who were previously held in conflict. Some, as stated, are title conflicts, and then some are individuals who are unknown and unlocatable. Through our process of, researching for addresses for owners, we have mailed, in most cases, at least 5 times to individuals who are remaining to request W-9 forms from them, which the bank requires in order to release the funds from the escrow account. And there just are a lot of people who do not want to return W-9 forms.
What is the reason for not wanting to return? I mean, is there any specific reason?
Based on my experience and a lot of the individuals that I have spoken with, they are concerned about receiving additional monies and how that would affect their Social Security.
Some of these are, it's a considerable amount of money,
They are. And then
Mm.
there's also some outstanding mixed in with this too. There's some litigation that I believe is outstanding that is tied to some larger amounts as well, that we have attempted to reach out to the attorneys who initially filed that litigation to request that they make some movement to get judgments from the court, and have not had any response on those either.
Or do most of them understand extra amount of money is not going to affect their Social Security?
I do attempt to explain it to them, but it's more of a product of the area we're working in here.
Well, I think this is Mark, part of the Social Security issue, and we don't really have enough data. The amount of income you have isn't going to affect the amount of your Social Security payment, but it may determine whether or not portions of your Social Security income are subject to income tax. So, some of these people may really understand that. And that may be part of their thinking, that it would actually cost them money potentially to depending on where they are income wise, it could cost them tax money in excess of the amount they're receiving in royalty. So some of these people may really be making a good choice. Some of the people may be making choices that really aren't great, but we have no way of knowing that.
Well, I don't think it really affects Social Security. The only thing it might affect is if they have other income, it might increase the amount of money they make or that is taxable. But for the Social Security, I really don't see that they're choosing this would impact their Social Security.
Depending on your income, Social Security is taxable. And so up to 85% of your Social Security benefits can be subject to an income tax if you are within certain parameters of total income. And that's what I'm talking about. Your Social Security.
You have to determine how much you're going to have taken out with your Social Security for taxes, to
Right.
declare that.
Right.
But
Right.
unless you're in a real high income tax bracket, I don't think that's going to affect.
Actually, the numbers are surprisingly low. And I pay, I'm old enough to get Social Security, and I pay income tax on my Social Security, just like I pay. And it's, I think some people, depending on where you are, you might decide not to take another $400 or $500 in income to shift into a bracket where you're paying, income taxes on your Social Security. So I think some people may actually be making appropriate dollars and cents choices here. I just was pointing that out, that there are reasons to maybe not do this that are sensible.
Some of this is $3,000. I think I saw 4,000. It just doesn't seem to me like, maybe they're not really knowledgeable of it.
Right. And I don't know how we address that, but you're right. I mean,
Question.
Just one other question, Mark, or Kelly, either one. The unprocessed coal dismissals that date back, these have never been brought before the board to this point? Or, so people who, since 2016, since the past, you're still paying their money, if we don't have a W-9 for them, you're still paying their money into the escrow account, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
yes,
So other operators elected to go ahead and process those documents, and we have the W-9 list. And so that internally, they can withhold, where the bank can't do it, the banks can withhold those taxes and go ahead and issue those checks to those people internally. Is that correct? Do you all have any of those situations where you're going ahead and withholding people's taxes and going ahead and paying them their payments?
We have not.
we don't do that. And
Interesting.
frankly, wow, I don't know how you would know what their tax bracket is.
Yeah, I think it's just a withholding. I'm not sure how, I guess then it becomes up to that individual when they file their taxes. They're getting a 1099 saying, this is my revenue and this was the tax that was withheld. Then it gets reconciled then. The problem is where the bank can't handle this internally, but this can be handled if we went ahead and processed these people out. Then you would go ahead and issue them a check with a 1099. And then it'd be their responsibility to clean up their taxes on their own if you don't withhold enough, or they'd get a refund if you held too much.
I think it
That
might be
seems
that
to me
I was
there's a lot of
originally
money
told that
going
it was an
Back to the
issue
state.
with the bank, that the bank would not release the funds without a W-9
Right, the
form.
bank is
because
the one,
it-
we're
Right.
trying to resolve that issue too. Because I don't see why we can't do it the same way that companies do this all across the country. People pay people their royalties when they're pooled, and then they just withhold it and issue them a 1099. So they have to file it on their own taxes. The unknowns are different, but if you know who the person is, you should be able to pay them, withhold their taxes, pay that money to the IRS, and then it gets reconciled down the line by that individual.
Well, the problem we have, or that the bank has, how do we know their social security numbers? If they don't
That's
give
the
us,
question I don't understand. I know we don't have that, so I'm not sure how a company just issues a
Right.
1099 without a social security number.
No
It's issued
kidding.
To that individual.
yeah, I mean, that's the whole purpose of a W-9 is to get a social security number and, I mean,
Have
it's
tax
not
ID.
something,
I mean, that's a question for another company. I didn't know if y'all had instances where you withheld people's taxes from their payments anywhere, Kelly.
no, we don't do that, but
No,
You just suspend it internally if you have that issue?
yes,
You just withhold their money completely.
we place it in internal suspense.
that's if we can pay them. If they're subject to escrow, we pay the whole amount into escrow.
Right.
I'm not talking about, these are people who have been pooled by the board. But if you have a leasee who won't give you a social security number for whatever reason, you can't pay them either, correct?
Correct,
So,
correct.
right, so for example, there are situations where, we'll have someone who passes away, and then we obtain documentation of who their heirs are. And sometimes those heirs don't want to send in a W-9 so that they can be paid their share, of that person's interest that they were already being paid because they did provide their W-9. And so in those situations, we make several attempts to mail to those individuals.
You're taking the same position the bank is, and if you're not gonna release their payments without a W-9.
Right.
You're not gonna go ahead and just withhold taxes from them and issue a 1099 payment. Even
I
though
think
you
it
know who the
depends
person
on,
is.
it depends on if we have confirmation that we have the correct address for the person, and that we have confirmation that they have identified themselves as the correct individual that we are attempting to reach.
It just seems to me to be a lot of money that will eventually go back to the state coffers. I just don't.
Right.
Well, it doesn't actually go back to state coffers. That's a
Well,
part of the discussion we got.
You're right.
Okay. I just want to make sure we understood how you all were doing it too. and how other companies were doing it, so.
Well, we're in the same process with, we can't refund money without a W-9. Doesn't matter what, whatever we do, we've got to have a W-9.
I have a question about your chart where you identify accounts. Are the unknowns in whole or in part of is the 118 a piece of the 243, or are those completely independent?
We're independent.
Okay, so
So
there
you're saying
are,
that they may have both, you may have accounts,
correct,
that
so I
both
mean,
have
it's
unknowns and cold dismissal issues?
correct.
You can have both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah,
probably
we
have both.
definitely have units that have both unknowns and, cold dismissals within the same unit.
Right,
For
so
sure.
my point is you shouldn't add those together and assume that represents a total
Right.
of escrow accounts. It's the total escrow accounts is going to be a different number than just adding 118 and 243, I think.
I know this is probably an elementary question, but how do we actually get unknowns? If everything's processed up front in order to, pay, how do we get unknowns?
Kelly? Give her an example.
Well, for example, it generally occurs within a situation where you're working within a larger airship and, people are identified as potential heirs of someone, but perhaps nobody in the family knows where they live or where they ended up, and we just can't quite track them down. That's generally how we end up with unknowns.
And I think we've had situations too where there was a corporate owner that the corporation ceased to do business. There's no way to track down the shareholders or the corporation. So you've got, companies and people that just fell off the face of the earth. And then you've got huge airships where relatives can't be accounted for. So it's not an uncommon problem.
Okay, I probably do have a couple other things, if nobody else has any other comments on it. Jackson, do you want to talk about anything about the W-9s?
Yeah, so I researched into this no W-9 issue about whether or not they could be issued to the state. And I think read through the statute in the Virginia Disposition of Unclaimed Property Act that under that 55.12517, they could be considered intangible property held for owner by a public agency. And under that section, intangible property that has remained unclaimed by the owner for more than 1 year after it became payable is then presumed abandoned and can therefore escheat to the state. So that is my short answer. And if you would like me to write up a legal memo or answer any questions you'll have on that, I'm happy to answer them right now.
So you said after 1 year, it's considered abandoned?
Yes, but yes, just the no W-9s, yeah. That's under Virginia Code 55.12517. And that's because this,
I'm sorry, could you repeat that code section?
yeah, 55.1 dash 2517.
Okay.
And that would be, intangible property held for owner by a public agency, which I believe that would qualify under that. And under that, after 1 year of it becoming quote unquote payable, it is then presumed abandoned if the owners, and in this case, the owners would not have taken any action to kind of ascertain or claim ownership over the funds.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions on that or want anything more formally written up that I could send to Sarah and she could distribute to the board?
Probably would have something to the board just for our record.
Yeah, that sounds
Because I think,
good.
you know, it is a large issue with the number of folks that we have that are in that status that we don't have W-9s for whatever reason, either they're not locatable or that they choose not to participate or give you that information, which we can't do anything about. And
Yeah,
brings us back to it. This may be the time to go ahead and put this to the Virginia Department of Unclaimed Property, let that be handled there. And then if you go through the proper identification or go through the process to claim the property, then that property still exists.
Yes. Yeah, I can do that because a lot of
And that
the,
brought us back to the legislative change. While we're talking about it, we did change the regulations. There were two changes made. One was in the definition of escrow under 4 VAC 25-16010. Escrow was redefined, means an account held in trust in the case of a gas owner or oil owner whose identity is location or unknown. Escrow includes the deposit of funds with the Department of Treasury's unclaimed property division on behalf of such owner. So the definition was modified there to kind of address that. And then in 4 VAC 25-160-90, the reg was modified that when any gas owner's identity and location remain unknown, the board may, pursuant to 42.5/1600, dispose of the unknown lessor's funds directly to the Department of Treasury Unclaimed Property Division held, distributed in pursuant to Virginia Disposition of Unclaimed Property Act. So that's the reg change that was put forward and it's went through the process. So that's out there.
So it's already been approved or it's in the
Yeah,
process?
it's just gone through the process. It was done the end of June.
I think I couldn't find anything on the town hall about it, any of that, so I didn't see it.
It's been through the process because our Office of
Okay.
Program Support we had a whole bunch of reg changes that we had a deadline that had to go through the process. So it was included in it. So that got that changed so that anything that we take out goes to clears that up. Which, I think this brings an issue maybe board needs to consider about the sheet of this big long process of no W-9s, if you consider whether you want to go ahead and hand that over to the Treasury unclaimed property. I mean,
Well, I see a big difference in the property owners that can't be identified and the ones that just refused to hand over a W-9.
There-
I mean, that's two different issues.
there is a difference with that too as well.
Yeah.
Like, when they're
I agree with that
unascertainable.
too. And from
Even from
our
a-
perspective, we have a lot of individuals that, we have kept track of the addresses that we have mailed to these people at. And if there's no mail that's been returned to us as a bad address, we can assume that that's a good address for that individual. And I think, there could be a time, or this could be the time for a directive from the board for us to provide a quote unquote final notice to these owners that if they don't want to provide a W-9, their funds are going to be sent to the state.
well, if I may say something, Jackson, you may correct me, but the sheetman process is a legal process for the state to take custody or care of someone's property that they don't claim, whether you don't know them or they refuse or don't want to participate. It doesn't dispose of it, just in state's custody.
Yeah, no,
There's
that's
a
correct.
process to claim it.
And
Am I
there's
correct in that?
You are correct. And there's some slight differences, from the code on, when the owner is ascertainable, when you have their address, when you know who they are or when they're considered unascertainable. So there's a slightly different process, slightly different qualifications that need to be met depending on the circumstances. And then some of it depends on the types of funds, whether they're, bank funds, there's various different considerations for it, but a lot of this unclaimed property stuff could
Well,
be
at least
issued, I believe.
at least if the state handles it, there is a process in place that you have to go through in order to claim the property. So
Mhm.
if you meet that criteria, then you're gonna be entitled to it or can get the property if you're entitled.
Mhm. Yeah, with this no W-9 question, a lot of it turns on the fact that these people, they are ascertainable. However, they haven't taken, they've omitted taking action to claim the property. And so then, after a year of them omitting to take this action, and that's when they can be presumed abandoned and then become abandoned property, and that allows it to be eschewed. And I will write something up more formally, kind of like going through and explaining this along with, the various sections and definitions in the code, and I can send that to Sarah and have her distribute it to the board.
To the extent that the board, this is Mark, to the extent that you all do something with this, I mean, it seems to me that like a way to really lighten the burden of reporting on our bank, to really streamline this process. I think this is something that I'm very encouraged to hear this. I would be interested to see what we can do to take money out of escrow and get it into the hands of the state to simplify the reporting for the bank, for the board, for my client.
Yeah, a lot of it'll turn on the constraints of the Virginia Disposition of Unclaimed Property Act, but that'll.
Sounds like there may be an opportunity here, though. I'll be interested to see. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hey, Kelly, just one question to clarify on the unprocessed coal dismissals that are out there, this $3 million. Is any of those accounts, do we have like one person didn't submit their W-9 and everybody else on there could be paid? Have we got any of those to be done, or everything that's left has got W-9s associated with it? It's just the
It's a
W-9 people
variety. No, it's a variety of situations. The vast majority of it is larger airships that are multiple people. But I will, if I get a W-9 from somebody within an airship, even though other people haven't submitted, I go ahead and release those people that I received that information from. You have some situations where the confirmation of the airship owners is still in progress and things like that.
But we're not holding up any.
But generally, if I
Disbursements
get a
based on a
W-9 from
W-9.
somebody, I'm gonna release their funds. It's a
We're not holding
mixture.
up any other people who should be getting their money that have given you a W-9 because somebody else hasn't given you a W-9.
Right. No, we don't, we release everyone who submits their
Okay.
W-9 as soon as they send it to us.
So currently, right now, the bank is the holder with the escrow with all these lack of W-9s, which their hands are tied to, to do something with it. So, with this, maybe something to consider is.
So the only thing is we're Innovest, for instance, where Innovest went ahead and processed those people. They're paying them, it's their responsibility now to pay them and withhold the taxes, whereas the bank doesn't have that ability.
Correct.
That's the only difference.
Is there any provisions in airship that if people do not claim or provide the information, that would divert back to the people that did do W-9 forms? Well, it isn't unless it's set up by the airship. That way, it can legally be done that anything would be diverted back to those members in the airship.
Yeah, I don't know. That's getting into a deep area.
Yeah.
When you can start talking about airships and people, there's a lot of things that nobody understands is why we're in this boat to begin with. We can't identify everybody.
Well, in a perfect world, an airship is no different than any other you know, joint interest, you ought to be able to do it to, you know, the decimal point, and if you can't, you can't make disbursements. I mean, either you solve the airship and have the number, or you don't. I mean, that's the problem we have. With the W-9s, you know, we know who the people are, and they won't give us a W-9. That's a completely different issue. And somebody said earlier that is a different thing to be handled. I think that's should be a fairly simple solution here. You know, don't submit a W-9 for over a year. If the board is good with it and the bank is good with it, you know, the money goes to the state and we can check that box.
How would you you would just continue to pay though into the escrow, just like you are now for those people, and then we'd have to do that every year, right? That would be the process going forward.
I was under the impression that we pay the state going forward.
Okay, we could do it that way. You
That
could,
was, now I may be
they'd
wrong.
be treated just like an unknown at that point,
I may be wrong,
even
but
though
I
we know who
think,
they are.
Kelly, isn't that what we're doing?
That was what we were asked to do, but I do not know if we have resolved with the state actually being able to pay them monthly royalties. We encountered a lot of obstacles in trying to get in
Okay.
contact with the people to get it set up appropriately.
But we would like to do that. I mean, why not? And I think the board would like to see that, presumably. I mean, otherwise the escheat to the state doesn't really solve the escrow problem.
The issue with the escheatment is the constraints of the code presently. That's where the issue really lies. From our end, at least.
So I guess you can't, under the code potentially at least, you can't assume that the abandonment of past payments is an abandonment of future payments, I gather, is what you're telling us, potentially.
That would be that's my initial gut feeling. I would have to do some, more extensive research to see if
Understood.
there's a workaround around that. But
Yeah.
my initial feeling would be that that's not a presumption I would be comfortable making.
I get that.
All right. If we don't have any other discussion on that, I'd also like to bring forward the board, we need to look at, getting, requests for proposal or quotes for someone to take Bill First Bank and Trust, because their contract expires this year. So we need to be looking at, so as before the board, we've been choosing a new one, so we're going to be doing quotes. And just relates to see who folks want to take over and go from there. So I mean,
But we just did that.
we didn't do quotes, we just approved for them to continue.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So this is under procurement.
This is under procurement, rules, correct.
Every 3 years to buy. This is
Contract was good for 5, so this is the end of the first year. So it has to go out for bid again.
Normally it's for 5 years and then every year you can renew.
Right, we have
The
the
board
option.
had the option to renew for a year. And that's what they did, you all did for 5 years. Now the 5 years are up and it's time to put it back out for bid and go from there.
We'll start that process. Hopefully we'll have the,
So you need a vote from the board to do this?
probably do, yes.
I'll entertain that motion.
Okay, so I'll make the motion that the staff begin the process of adhering to the state procurement rules on placing the escrow account management out for bid.
Right,
That sounds
quotes for it, it's quotes to qualified bidders.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion with that?
If y'all need my assistance with it, feel free to email me. But that's all I'll say.
Do we need a roll call vote for that? I don't think we do.
Let's get this finished.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Thank you. I don't think we needed a roll call vote for that.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and move that forward then.
Okay, let me ask you, you gave us a map with inspectors. Did you want to address that at
I
all?
did, I hadn't gotten to it, I was just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, this is a new map that'll be posted on our website, has contact information and shows the 7 county area. That shows the assigned inspection areas from the inspectors that we currently have. Just a way to contact local inspectors on what areas they have, and another way to have the new contact information, or everybody's phone numbers have changed over the years and other things, make it a bit more readily available. That'll be posted on our website.
I know this area 7 has 2 people. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, Ryan Deal was our latest transfer from one of our other programs to the area, and he's working with the other inspector in that area till we get some of that cleared up, and then we'll redivide that. Map will be shifted to just for his area.
Okay.
Right now, we're doubling up resources in a particular area.
You don't have an area 2 or 3 either, right? Is that the rest?
So one of them will back up and become another one of the other areas. At least helps gives you an idea if you're looking what county, a particular part of the state, you know, who would be in charge, who would be the first point of contact.
What does that area 7 cover? You know, just over here, Tazewell, I see Tazewell in the mix there.
That area goes, it covers the Buchanan #1
Oh,
project.
Oh,
Yeah, that goes up, actually goes all the way up to the state.
That's so right.
The area 7 actually has the active areas where the new,
Okay.
where the well drilling operations and
Okay.
longwall mining is actually taking place in that area, so there.
The other one is just Buchanan County that shows up there. Is
Yeah,
that correct? Okay.
yes.
Any other question? I don't think I had anything else. Did you have anything else there, Brian?
No.
Bill, board has any questions?
Thank you. No. I don't think any other questions. Okay, let's move on to the minutes. Board needs to address the minutes from the July 16th BGOB meeting. Is there any discussion there before we entertain a motion? Thank you for the updates.
Welcome.
We have a motion for the, well, I'll give you some time to review those.
While reviewing, do we have anything on the docket for next month? Or do we have that?
We have 2 items that have been submitted.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion for approval of the minutes and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, opposed? No? Thank you. The minutes are approved. Thank you, and I don't think there's any other business, so we stand adjourned.